Please.
Overwatch 2 sure is being a game that we play that I rage uninstalled last night after having a very bad time.
We've had
playing
2
video
people
games with you
uninstall
all.
Overwatch this week.
I mean, there's
mildly
a chance
related
I'd
reasons.
reinstall it, but
Yes, both
I'm just
Purple
so
and Toaster.
irritated.
I think Toaster. I don't think Toaster uninstalled because of the PvE. I think he uninstalled because the experience of playing Overwatch and trying to learn it is rough.
It's just very frustrating right now, specifically, and like maybe I'll come back to it. I mean, I like playing games with you all, so I'll probably end up reinstalling it in like a week and a half. But before we even get into the PvE discussion, and I'm sure Andrew and maybe Colonel will have things to say about this, but this last balance patch for Overwatch 2 is maybe the worst patch release they have done since I started playing at the start of Overwatch 2. Like it
I mean it is. I would say it's the worst.
Bad.
What? It is the worst balance patch.
I don't even know what changed
for Overwatch 2 itself.
I know what changed, but why what exactly do you not like?
So it's not specifically the character level changes that are bothering me. It's the fact that the game is so bugged right now. Like,
oh really?
People are reporting that like basic movement functions aren't working. Last night we had multiple issues where Bird was complaining about a known bug with Kiriko's teleport now.
Oh, the teleport is bugged.
Yeah, like teleport is bugged. Lucio's movement is really weird and bugged now. Apparently the way he clings to walls, it has slightly changed now, and the behavior isn't consistent. So he can jump into a wall and just won't cling to it and will fall down it. I can't remember what the exact change was, but I know people are really upset about some sort of weird interaction with Mercy's fly now. And just last night I was playing Tracer and I watched the replay to see it, and this is why I ended up being really mad and just uninstalling. For whatever reason, using Tracer's dash sometimes sends her completely vertical.
Wow.
Yeah, like as if I jumped.
That's cool.
So yesterday, if you remember, we were playing that push map. And I was like, we were on the curve with the bot, and we were fighting the Reaper that was killing us. And I was focusing on the Reaper, and he started to focus me. So I dashed to the left up the slope. But what happened was my Tracer popped up into the air, just completely vertical. And I didn't notice because I thought I was going up the slope. So I dashed again to go behind the Reaper and threw myself off the edge and died.
Damn.
And that should not have happened because Tracer's warp should get blocked by objects. So I should not have gone over the edge there when I did. So like the actual comfort level of playing this current patch, it feels like they released something that was in a beta branch that had not been bug tested, and now like there are just 1,000 friction points like that in the game that just feel broken, on top of balance changes that very fundamentally change how characters interact with each other. So that's why I was complaining yesterday while we were playing, and I felt bad because normally I do not get salty like this about video games, but I was very salty last night because I just felt like the goalposts for Overwatch 2 for character picking, for skill level, for counterplay just shift wildly every single week. I play fighting games, all right? Like I am used to character patches fundamentally changing a character's kit. I will use Guilty Gear Strive as an example. My main character in that game was broken at launch. He was a completely different character over the course of the game. They have changed how he plays. My entire strategy is different. Every single move he has functions in a different way than it started. I am not complaining about that level of balance. What I'm complaining about is that we'll play a game for 2 weeks and that patch will solidify a meta and a counter picking strategy and the ways with which you can use a character in standard play. And then the next week, the game will be completely fucking different because they'll turn a knob a little bit too far, and then suddenly the entire meta changes. And it is so exhausting to keep up with, on top of these patches constantly introducing new bugs and breaking characters and just making the game feel worse to play. I do not understand why this game is like this. I really wish it was just 5% more stable in terms of what they actually release to the goddamn public. It is so frustrating to me.
Yeah, the bugs are really
there's a lot.
The bugs are really bad. Oh well, not really bad. We're not talking Cyberpunk 2077 level here, but but it is bad. Like especially on a competitive game, like they should have a system where they detect a bug, they basically undo the specific changes, like to that skill or whatever.
There's something interesting going on there too, where like first of all, I thought I hadn't encountered a single bug, but I do remember like there was the time where like I was playing Ash and Andrew was playing
Ash is bugged as well, yeah.
And we threw Dynamite and Immortality Field, and they both just flew straight into the air. And we're like, but
yeah, Immortality has been bugged.
Aside from that, I haven't encountered bugs really this entire patch. But what I find fascinating about this whole mess is the fact that Blizzard seems to be a very poorly managed company lately. It seems to be in turmoil and has massive like turnover in its like actual employees, and things are just being structurally changed constantly, and their goals are being shifted, and it's just a nightmare. But like in this specific case, they had to release this update with all these cosmetics. And then they also this new PvE mode that itself is really, really bad. Like this really bad Star Watch, horrible gaming experience mode that nobody, as far as I can tell, has ever liked. While also releasing an update patch where they changed the Junker Queen balance and a few other characters, but while also, perhaps too ambitiously, on top of that, they released a massive quality of life update where they're like, we're going to tweak these helpful things about 20 different characters, and they did that all in one patch. And I'm like, oh god, oh god, oh god, because that last one was the worst choice they made. Because
I think that
and I was while Toaster first started talking, I was like, I was thinking my point was gonna be like, oh, I'm shocked they didn't just immediately roll back the patch when it broke everything and just like, okay, BRB, we got to look at this patch again. But because the patch is simultaneously the quality of life update and the new cosmetics that people can pay for, and the PvE mode, that's the big advertised thing, that even if it's a disaster, if they get rid of it, then it's like they're removing the big advertised thing that they just put out. And the balance update all in one.
Canceled this patch.
It just feels like it was such discourse. It's such a mistake to put all of those into one bundled update all at once, and it was such a mistake to it feels like the team has so many split incentives and projects to work on simultaneously that like I guess I'm not that ultimately shocked that this wasn't a bug tested well enough update, and that almost every quality of life change broke something somehow, because this game, like that's an insane amount of stuff to do all at once. And it's like that's what happens when you, on top of having to balance the game and so on that they've been doing for years, you also now have this endless, exhausting Fortnite style content roadmap. Like that's going to just make the product worse, like, because that's just a nightmare to have to work on, and it makes it so you can't just roll back mistakes immediately and so on. It's just kind of a nightmare. But yeah, we did 2 hours of a goofy, garbage, furry shooter game last night, where we all had fun with the dumb game, and then we played 4 hours of Overwatch, and then that stream just ended with a DM from Toaster saying, Overwatch is bad for my mental health, so I uninstalled. It's just Alex. Nope.
Power.
Quit.
I was really, truly, like, I don't know. I'm not sitting here to be like, look at me. I don't get salty at video games, but like, I like to think that for the past 6 months or so that I've been playing Overwatch, or however long we've been playing it together, I like to think that my perspective as a newcomer, it has been relatively even-handed, in that I have been learning and being very patient with this game that notoriously people get very salty about when they play. I'm not throwing shade at you, Andrew, but like, you get pissed when you play Overwatch. I do not. I like to think that I'm very relatively pleasant to play with. Last night made me truly angry. Like, I was very upset. I have never felt so useless and so unable to contribute playing a video game as I did last night.
It's the thing that makes me so mad about Overwatch is because I genuinely know what I'm doing. I genuinely know where to go. The problem is I can't play every fucking role. I cannot be every character. And because I know because I know how to play every role, because I know what I should be, I end up trying to play every role. I want to be a tank that can also DPS, that can also peel, or that can also heal.
That's why you should play
I'm trying to like, but D.Va doesn't
can do everything.
But again, she can't though, because the problem with D.Va is that you're it's like it's your role is supposed to be important,
and she doesn't do that much damage. On your role.
But more importantly, the issue is that it's very frustrating when you are very confident in the things that you're doing and you don't get rewarded for it. Like your amount of effort put into a game and the skill that you have in it doesn't mean anything because it's a team-based game. It's cool that you're fucking good at it, but that doesn't mean shit if if your team doesn't work as a unit. And that's just not a natural thing. People don't just naturally work together as a team. It's not something you just get born with, right? Like, seriously, it's frustrating because you don't.
It's why top level teams do scrims to specifically practice like how they're going to behave so that they are on the same page generally. And it's why high level gameplay in matchmaking is where you can only the top level players can only matchmake with one teammate, period. And every single team only has pairs, and so what they have is all of their gameplay is full of comms, like they're coordinating. It's like the issue we have, Andrew, is that assuming that everything you're saying is correct and you know exactly what to do and how to play everything and how to react to everything, what you do not do is you do not coordinate whatsoever. So you do not communicate to your team on any level what you're going to do or anything. So what often happens is that you immediately are alone. Like, we all run in together and then immediately you split off from the team as the tank and are completely isolated and die. And everyone else is fighting something else because you just ran off and nobody knew what you were doing. And so like the problem here is that, and this is a universal problem throughout Overwatch, is that people have assumptions about what should happen and what they're going to do. And then you die immediately, and then you watch the replay and you're like, oh, everyone ran in 5 different directions because they were all very sure of what was about to happen and none of them were on the same page as each other. And so comms are like the number one thing it's like more important than player skill. it's just actually having plans and coordinating.
When I play tank, I always like go super hard on comms, and it doesn't mean that the team is coming as well. But a lot of the time they're listening, and like, I get easily 50% more wins because of comms if I as a tank.
Comms are my weak point too, because I'm afraid of people. I've been confirmed because whenever I talk to random people in Overwatch, they're really toxic and shitty.
Yeah, that's
but
continue com. But the problem, like, just to not let the point go of splitting off and doing your own thing. The problem is actually worse than what you're explaining. Well, it's not a problem, but the conundrum is worse than you're explaining, Keith. Because once you start practicing syncing with your team, and some characters and some heroes specifically require more of that coordination than others, but it doesn't matter. You always need coordination at a certain point. Once you start doing that, the requirement stops being able to coordinate, but what it starts being is being able to compensate for the lack of coordination of other players. So just you just raise the ceiling of how difficult it is. So at lower ranks, like, I think if you're good enough with your mechanics, I think up to diamond, you can just forget about coordination and just brute force, probably. But you start getting higher than that. And not that I have experience, because I've never gotten above platinum. but start getting higher than that. Like, at least from what I see, top level players play, what they do is they're capable of accounting for lack of coordination. They can see even the body language, even like the pathing that certain people take, and like that's easy to see at the lower levels, because you see a Winston go left side on Junktown defense .1, and like just out of spawn they go like all the way into like these rooms that are on the left side, and like, okay, this Winston is throwing immediately, and like 9 times out of 10 that's the case, because you can just tell they don't know what the game, they don't know the map.
I want to I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to focus on that point really quickly, which is like, you bring up like, oh, that Winston is throwing, right? And what really bothers me about Overwatch in general, but is a thing that I think has been exacerbated the longer I have played, is that like Andrew was saying a minute ago, it kind of doesn't matter how good you individually are, because it's a team game, right? So like, you individually have very few levers you can pull to make mid-match adjustments that will affect reactively how you are doing in the game, right? And I'm going to make an example with a fighting game just to kind of demonstrate my thought process. I'm playing Street Fighter. I notice my opponent is jumping in a lot, and I am not reacting to it. So they're able to cross the gap and hit me, put me into block stun, get frame advantage, and pressure me. And if they get a hit, and I'm like trying to attack them, and I'm not using my proper anti-air, they suddenly do a full combo, and I lose half my health bar. How do I deal with this situation? I recognize that they're jumping in. I back up to give myself some more space, and I start anti-airing them. You know, if I'm playing Chun-Li, I'll standing heavy punch, and it knocks them right out of the air every time. There is an answer to this problem that I am able to interact with that changes the state of the game, so that then they need to do their strategy and figure out how to bait an anti-air, or like they stop jumping in and change how they play, right? In Overwatch, it's not that simple. In Overwatch, I'm playing Tracer. I see the opponent has reacted to me by, I don't know, Junkrat trapping me and murdering me instantly. Okay, what can I do as Tracer? The answer is nothing. I switch to a different character. Okay, but then that's not
true though.
I think it is very true in a lot of cases, or I'll use Zenyatta, right? I'm playing as Zenyatta. I need to keep line of sight on enemies. The enemy has a Widow. They murder me instantly. Sure, there is a variability of how this works and like little things I can do to play better, but Overwatch is a game of counters, and your tool set is the vast amount of characters that are in the role you play. But it's very hard to play this game well and get practice at the same time, because oftentimes, 100%. Oftentimes you swap to another character, and that is a bad decision because you don't know how to play them, and swapping to that character punishes your team, which gets to the greater point, which is there are very few individual levers you can pull playing Overwatch with a team that make the team better or safer, but there are many levers you can pull that instantly fuck your entire team and lose the game for the team. It is very, very hard to individually win a game of Overwatch, but it is extraordinarily easy to individually cause a team to lose.
Yes.
And that is fucking awful feeling to learn this game, because it means all of your incremental growth and progress getting better does not feel rewarding and is incredibly small in the grand scheme of things. But every single failure is huge and imminently tangible. I mean, am I wrong? Like Andrew, Keith, you can correct me there, but that's how I feel.
If Overwatch 2 has been having a massive drop in players, I would directly guess that is because I feel the game is directly more stressful to play now in Overwatch 2 than it was in Overwatch 1.
It's like faster.
It's faster, it's more lethal, it's more punishing. There's fewer people in each team. There's less structure to the team because the team now has one tank.
It's very tiring,
So it's very fragile, where like with a relatively small number of players, like I just think about like the number of times, like last night I think we were walking out of spawn, and like a combination of like I think Junkrat and Kiriko spam killed both of our DPS instantaneously, simultaneously, right at the beginning of the fight. I'm like, oh, there goes another 30 seconds. Like you're just like, holy shit! Like the rate at which this the number of ways this goes bad, and how hard it, and how important every individual player is to playing the game and coordinating in a game that's almost impossible to coordinate, and this complicated with this many switch ups and so on. Like, it is actively stressful. Like, I am convinced that our team is the most stable as a whole when I play tank, but playing tank is fucking stressful because you're the only tank, and you have to engage in this incredibly complicated like rock paper scissors system where not only are you trying to play a tank that is either countering or at least not being countered by the enemy tank, but you have to think about how your tank interacts with the rest of the entire enemy team while synergizing with your team. Like how, oh, your tank has an advantage against their tank, cool, but your tank's completely shut down by the fact that they picked Bastion and Ana, and like those characters literally make your character unplayable. So who do you switch to without also becoming massively vulnerable to their tank, because there's only one tank on each team, and there's no longer the two tanks that synergize and complement each other like there were in the old days. Like, it used to be that you could do Zarya Rein to have a synergizing front line that would work together specifically, or you could be like a big tank on front line and then flanker wacky tank that's going all over the place like Hamster. But now if you pick Hamster, it's like, okay, now their team has no front line, so you have to be a very specific type of touch and go, like hit and run tank that is making a frontline presence to make the team not just crumple, but also is playing Hamster correctly, and those are like almost at odds with each other. And like, it's very stressful being like, okay, they picked Pharmacy, so now I have to pick some kind of DPS that can interact with Pharmacy, but also kind of in some way the entire team also kind of collectively has to make choices to counter this problem, because one person can't be expected to solve this entire a two enemy problem. And like the number of like specific changes that have to happen to solve certain problems, and the number of ways you can be hard countered while having a high impact, low time to death game, it can feel like there's like entire matches where you can't interact, and you're spending the whole time running back, and it can be very stressful. And I could see why a lot of people would just stop playing to play what's even though the competition is arguably higher impact and even faster time to death and even more downtime in the cases of like battle royales, but those are like social hangout or games Apex. Because the idea of winning is so hopeless that they're like, lol, whatever, teehee, I'm walking around picking up loot and oh, we died. Because that's like lower stress than Overwatch, where you have to like high engagement try to contribute for like 15 minutes straight, and it's nothing's working, and then you uninstall.
You're touching on the point, or on a point that I wanted to make after Toaster's example of Junkrat against Tracer. So the first thing is, Overwatch does, and historically has done, a terrible job at teaching its players how to play the game, and that's very frustrating because no effort whatsoever, like none. The nuances of even basic things like counter picking, which I think it is what the game is about in a sense, but it isn't as drastic as you're making it out to be, Toaster. Or I think it isn't as drastic as most people think it is, at least not in DPS and support. In tank, it's a little bit more focused on counter picking. But I think the what Overwatch doesn't do, and what players take a long time to learn, is to play differently. And it's not about just like Tracer is a fantastic DPS, but if your aim is good, it doesn't even matter if your aim is good. Like if it isn't good, you're just a lower rank, but it's fine. Like Tracer works at any rank, but you need to be able to do different things with Tracer. So for example, against a Junkrat, you need to do, if Junkrat is your target, which it can be, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes you have your other DPS is a Ash or something, and she can take care of Junkrat, or perhaps she can. But if you're going up with a Tracer against a Junkrat, what you need to do is distract him. You're not really trying to kill the Junkrat. You're trying to stop his choke spam, and obviously having communication with the team and team. Okay, Junkrat is looking at me. You guys push up, and there's a Lucio pushing up your tank or whatever. Like that's why screaming. You mentioned it, Keith. Screaming is such a great way to learn the interactions, and of course, they're very dependent on communications. But even in solo queuing, you can still do that and train and practice that. But the problem is, it 100% goes back to what you were saying, Toaster, is that the game does not reward you. And I learned that while playing DPS. I think my first lesson on the lack of reward, was with Echo. And as I learned Echo, and Echo got me, basically Echo got me out of silver 5 into lower gold. I think if I've been up and down a little. I'm currently like silver 2 or something to that extent in DPS. But Echo is a tricky character to play at lower ranks because supports don't support. They heal and do their own thing. And when I say they don't support, I mean they are not actively thinking of what their DPS or tank are doing. So and the Echo is very easy because she fly, or very easy to see that because she flies. So your supports are not even looking. So it's easy to lose track of what your Echo is doing. And for example, when I play an Ana and I know that there's an Echo, I know I'm not going to be able to play a frontline Ana, even though Ana goes really well with Echo because Echo floats in the air, or it's easy to hit it because she has a big hitbox. Better than Pharah anyway, at least in my opinion. But as Echo, what happens is Echo has an interesting playstyle where her damage output doesn't drop off at long range, so you can just spam from very, very far away and do her right click with those bombs and just sort of
like every projectile character.
Yeah. Or spam chokes or go for headshots and stuff like that. She's either doing that or she's going really, really close, either on like a flank or a front line, depending on your tank, on your composition, and she's going really close to do the beam and kill people very fast. But she can only really go really close if your team allows for that. So while I was learning Echo, a lot of my games I was doing low amounts of damage because spamming from far away was it's not where you get the most damage, and also I wasn't winning as much, but I was dying very little because I was just playing so defensively, and I was playing defensively because my team wasn't supporting me, either because they were playing independent characters, like for example an Echo and a Sombra, kind of they work together, but as long as there's communication, usually it doesn't, or the tank is like Hog, for example, with an Echo is sort of kind of very dangerous because Hog has such a level of control thing it used to have anyway, but there's a lot of compositions that don't play, or at least I haven't learned how to play with Echo, because Echo can can sort of play with everything, but you need to be a master and I'm not. But what I learned is that I could do my thing. I could be like, okay, I did my job, but I knew I wasn't contributing, and that's where the sort of like, you're landing your shots as your Widow, but your team is still losing. You need to switch to a Mei or something, which is very short range, because you're gonna still land your shots, but you're gonna have a lot more impact on the play, and that's where the counter picking comes from. You just need to be aware that, as support, that's where it's the worst, because supports have lower impact on kills, or tend to, and you can even you can be an amazing aim, and I dropped. I was as high as Platinum 4, I think, as Lucio one trick, and that's where I decided to learn the game. And I decided to learn the game because I dropped down to Silver 2, from a Platinum. And
I mean, I think part of my issue here, though, is that what you say is correct, right? Like, the game's bad at teaching you what to do and how to react to things and react in the moment. Like, oh, I'm trying to do this thing as Tracer, I need to actually do a different thing as Tracer. I think that's completely true. But the issue I'm having is that your breadth of skill as a one trick, just playing a handful of characters or whatever, is actively difficult to improve your chances if something occurs that suddenly means the answer to your problem is on a different character, or is as a counter or something, right? And like, like, as you said, like, you need to switch to Mei. Well, like, I'm playing DPS, right? I can play like 5 characters, and I'm trying very hard to learn more, But let's say we're all playing a team and the rest of my team has to switch to different characters or switch their strategy. And the solution is we need to do X, Y, and Z. And in order for this to work, we need a DPS that plays Widow. We need a Widow to make this strategy work. I can't do that. Like that would kill the game for everyone because I don't have that skill.
But you're misunderstanding my point. I didn't mean that you need to switch to Mei. I meant that if you did switch to Mei, you would win, which is slightly different.
I do understand the nuance there. I actually do understand the nuance there. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying though is it's very difficult to do that in a match and get a positive outcome because practicing mid-match is throwing, I guess, is my point. Like like in competitive or like I mean, I guess even in a greater sense.
I mean single player,
Yeah. In single player, totally agree. This makes sense. Sorry. Yeah. It's just
for me. What's just absolutely bonkers about Overwatch as a video game is that in order to learn this game, if anyone at Blizzard has ever had a problem with the fact that like YouTubers and streamers and influencers shape the public discourse about this game, then that's too bad. It's their fault because you literally can't learn this game by playing it. Like the game offers you no tools to learn how to play it well. And what I find interesting is that even the game knows how to play itself well sometimes. Like the AI in this game is awful in bot matches. The only character that's ever dangerous is that if you put it on aimbot difficulty, Zenyatta's terrifying because Zenyatta's aim is absurd and his kit is so simple mechanically that it absolutely can just AI. Just orb somebody on my team and on the enemy team, and then aim at heads very well. So Zenyatta's terrifying.
Ironically,
as
the
an
Omnic has really good aimbot.
But what I find very interesting is that if you fight against an AI team in this game and you kill 3 of them, the other 2 of them start running back to spawn together to regroup with the respawning teammates, which is a thing that the game itself never teaches players to do. So like there's several entire teams, like forget matchups which is of course a core part of the game, team fights as a concept, trickling, regrouping, how to engage and how not to engage, how certain characters do play together and other characters should be expected not to play together, entire dynamics of how a team works and how you should be expected to play as a team are fundamentally never communicated to the players by anyone besides like Flats or someone. Like you have to watch a streamer to get any kind of external knowledge about how this game works, because this game is so poorly tutorialized that I played this game for months while thinking Symmetra was cool, not knowing how her gun worked. Because the tutorial, like forget the idea of how the teams
game doesn't tell
work.
you.
Yeah, forget how teams work. Forget how matchmaking. Forget tutorializing gameplay, like teamwork. Forget tutorializing
meta concepts.
Forget tutorializing what a game's character's intended role is or how the roles should interact. This game doesn't even teach you what the buttons do for most characters on a complete level. Symmetra's beam, it is never explained to you in a meaningful way that Symmetra's beam, the way it works is you need to hold her left click down on a shield or a Mei wall or a Torb turret or an enemy player for several seconds, and then its damage will ramp up from like 30 damage per second to like 120 damage per second, and that's the entire source of her being able to do damage in most contexts aside from her turrets. Or like right now,
I didn't know that. I had no fucking clue. Just is indication here. I had no idea she had a ramp up mechanic. I thought I vaguely remember hearing once that she like recharged her gun off of stuff like that. I thought that meant like ammo. Like I didn't realize.
And he does. It does do that too.
That was another not communicated mechanic that the game never teaches you about. Is that I think they removed. Actually, I forgot if they removed it and then put it back or not. But in Overwatch 1. When Symmetra was beaming against an enemy shield, she had infinite ammo. So like she would not drain
ammo.
I think it even recharged it. Yeah. So like her ammo goes down the longer she beams, which leads to her having to reload, and her reloading is bad because it means she doesn't reset her charge, but it's time she's not shooting, which means that her invisible beam that they don't put on the screen anywhere, that determines her damage, is going down because it immediately goes down. And it has 3 levels of charge, and so you want to be level 3 charge beam. The only feedback you get about this is that her beam gets bigger and louder, and it starts getting like a wah-wah effect that tells you like, oh, that's level 3. It's going wow, wow, wow.
It's a phaser effect.
But like in the noise of the game losing its entire goddamn mind of audio sensory nightmare, like I literally didn't notice that for months that it was even doing that, because who's looking at your gun when you're playing the game? It's like desperately the game. Every character needs an in-game tutorial that teaches you the intricacies of how their kit actually works, because they don't tell you. But also stuff like that needs an interface element. Like I think they just added an element to Orisa where when she ults, it tells you her current damage percentage, so you can tell how strong it currently. Was it always there? Was it just so noisy that I never noticed it?
Yeah.
It was always from the beginning.
For a while, I was like, they need some kind of feedback here, and like Symmetra needs a charge meter that's visible, akin to like Zarya's damage number, that tells you how good it is. But also they just need to tell you how it works at all, and they need to tell you about how it interacts with shields. And like, I launched Overwatch just now to show you a comparison point, because Brigitte. When I play as Brigitte here...
Oh, yeah, Brigitte. I was going to say Brigitte, yeah.
Yeah, so I just launched into Brigitte, and what's very noticeable to me is that her ult says, gain armor, empower barrier shield, and provide extra health to nearby allies.
What does any of that mean?
Brigitte's ult does not give her armor. It gives her a temporary boost of 100 health maximum. She already has... Okay, I'll ult right now. It is armor, but it specifically it gives her 100 temporary maximum health, which means that it's re-healable health. But specifically, what this thing does not really explain is that it makes her shield 3 times as wide and lets it stun people, which is its number one most important mechanic. The idea that Brigitte even has a stun ever is never mentioned anywhere in this like F1 menu. And that kind of highlights the folly of the idea of trying to tutorialize characters via an F1 like cheat sheet, is that trying to fit it all on one screen when they're this complicated doesn't work. You need a dedicated mission or something, like a tutorial that explains every character in the game, and it needs to be in the game in a playable, accessible way that is supported by Blizzard specifically. And not just like, I gotta find an obscure SVB video that tells me how to play the game that Blizzard made for me and for them. And then the subjective...
Sorry.
And like ideally they would also make a tutorial on how the character is currently understood by the public to be meant to be played, and try to actually not just tell you how the kit works, but also embed on you some level of like what your intended behaviors are, like Sombra. Like what exactly is the gameplay loop as Sombra, and what are you trying to accomplish moment to moment? Because that's so fundamentally understood by people that just pick her in as on a whim and try her out, that they don't even know what they're even trying to go for. And that would require work, and it would be work that does not, and the problem here is it does not lead to an immediate benefit for the company's bottom line, and that you cannot, you have to make this a more abstract argument to the suits that tells them, see, this will increase player like knowledge and understanding and their enjoyment, which leads to retention, and then hopefully leads to more profit in the long term. But we can't sell the tutorial. But like, and it would have to be updated, because like a character like Lifeweaver,
and it have to be forced as well, I think, because people will like, I've been playing this game for 100 hours. I don't need a tutorial, and that's not true.
Yeah, and you make characters like Lifeweaver or Kiriko where they have an intended way that they want you to play that character, but then after they're out for a month, you're like, oh, everyone who's good at this character is playing them completely differently than even we made him to be played. We need to update the tutorial based on like the actual reality of what the game turned out to be, and not what we bin we tried to put this character in. But this is all like the kind of work that would actually increase the quality of the player base and not sell Minotaur skin, so it won't happen.
Yeah. That's the I think I think the first step would be UI. Every hero should have, well, not every hero, but there's some heroes that absolutely need a UI improvement, and by just adding stuff.
Big quality of update was supposed to do too. It added a lot of necessary visual indicators for stuff that, like the idea of how long is Orissa's gold last for. Well, now you can see that.
They have been adding that. Gold lasts for. But specifically Brigitte, for example, we need Brigitte needs to have a Lucio style friendly counter, because when you play Lucio, you can always tell how many friendlies you have around you. Do you know the number?
You mean like an indicator around you? I mean, I haven't checked. I haven't seen exactly how many, because they added like 700 menu items.
Yeah, there's a few, game. But in terms of UI, there's not that many changes. Brigitte you need to know how many friendlies you have, and you need to know their status of the healing that you're doing, because Brigitte is a very misunderstood character because the UI doesn't tell you what she's doing. And like, I bet most people at silver and below don't understand that the moment you do melee damage with Brigitte, you're triggering a 3-second long heal on everybody in line of sight of you, every friend of you, that lasts
with like functionally infinite range.
It's not infinite. I think it's 30 meters
functionally
or something
infinite, because it's the size of like a diva bomb.
It's really big.
It's comically but the thing long range.
But the thing is, you don't need to maintain, like, it's not like Lucio. You don't need to maintain line of sight. You peek out of a corner, do melee damage, hide away from your team, hide away from the enemy. That's how she's meant to be played. And the reason why she's meant to be played like that is because even though she has a shield,
YouTuber influencer said so.
No, because the thing is, she's frontline.
Who are you right now?
She's frontline. So at lower rank, nobody attacks a Brigitte because she can't die very fast. But the problem is nobody plays at high ground. So if you want to kill a Brigitte, you need to be ready for her to come at you and kill you, because she will kill you after a little bit. She doesn't do that much damage, but she will if you're not playing at high ground. But against people who know what they're doing, they're going to take high ground and they're going to kill your Brigitte because she's frontline. She needs to be sort of at the front to be able to do melee damage. Like, her whip is the longest reach she has, which is pretty good, actually. I think it's like 15 meters or something to that extent. But her whip is also a defensive weapon because it whoops enemies away. So, like, for example, a diva dives a Brigitte, and Brigitte just sort of whips the diva away. That's very important. Or a Winston doing his thing and all that. So the whip is not necessarily usable against all comps, but nobody understands her like that. What they look at her, she has a shield, her rally is all rally to me, let's go. And like, I've seen it's so common to see people use rally and not even put the shield up, and they just go and do damage. But they reduce the rally to just health buffs, which is, I mean, it's fair, I suppose, but it's not, it's not what it is now, because it's the stun, it's the 700 shield. She has a shield as powerful as Reinhardt. Like, yeah, it's just.
But I mean, all the stuff that you're saying are things that aren't at all, at any point, no way, no how conveyed to the player they start playing this character. No one would ever know unless they go online to google.or youtube.com and ask, hey, what is this character with the dumb shield?
I do that. Yeah, I do that when I want to learn a character.
You shouldn't need to do that. Like,
I shouldn't.
There's no reason to do that. And I
feel like I need to watch 100 hours of tutorials just to figure out what Lifeweaver's even supposed to do moment to moment, because I was so lost playing him and trying to figure out how to contribute at all.
I mean, good luck, because none of the top 500 players play him, so you're not going to get any fucking good guides.
Just to finish my point. Just to finish my point. I will point out that Overwatch 2 has added, and they keep adding it more because I keep noticing those lines more and more. Overwatch 2 has added lines that your characters say that are kind of like tutorials, which is for example the lines.
So that's not a tutorial.
No. When you are 3v5, for example, characters will usually, I don't know if it's always, because I don't always pay attention, but they will usually say, we're at a disadvantage, our numbers are dwindling. I mean,
I noticed this yesterday when I was playing as Tracer. At one point, like 3 people on the team died, and Tracer was like, I can't remember the exact line, but she was like, wow, we're really outnumbered here. And then like I just like ran back to spawn, and like I got that. The thing that bothered me, the thing that bothered me about that though is that like it's often like they say it after it would have been helpful. So it's like, great, my team's dead.
Yeah, there might be a delay. There might be, but what and there's another one, which is after the game starts, right after the game starts and the doors open, there's usually one character that says their line, let's go do this. And some of them are lines like, let's stick together or we're dead. And I don't remember who says that, but I think it's somebody who like is Ash or something. Which
I was gonna say I think that's an Ash line,
and she plays from all the way in the back.
I think
the character that doesn't stick together. Yeah, but either way,
Cowboy at one point says like group up and roll out or something, and I'm like, wow, that's weird.
So that I think they must have like some internal program of like maybe trying to hint at better game knowledge from their players, but they're completely hampered by either the amount of resources that they have, or maybe the higher ups don't want to add thing. Because the one thing that Overwatch does is it does not have numbers anywhere. It does not tell you any damage numbers. It tells you health, but it doesn't tell you damage. So there's like some there's like some hang-ups.
That's what's so brutal about characters like Symmetra is that like I'm looking at her right now, and her F1 says photon projector, short range beam weapon with increasing damage. Increased by what? Increased to what? How? Why? Where? Like Zarya? Like does she have a mechanic where she gets power ups? Like how do you play this character game?
Yeah.
Like by contrast, I am actually shocked by how comprehensive Mercy's tutorial screen is, where it says Guardian Angel, fly towards an ally. While in flight, jump launches you forward and crouch launches you upward. I'm like, whoa. They explained the whole tech in the pop-up. They had to. That's such a shock compared to the rest of this fucking game.
Because it kept getting reported as a bug, so they had to do that because they had to explain that it's not a fucking bug.
My god.
So here's the thing is that it would be nice if maybe instead of skins, we got like PvE tutorial missions per character. You could add them over a slow amount of time, and maybe you would maybe at the end of doing the PvP, or and at the end of doing this weird tutorial mission for PvE, you can then have people unlock a skin. And it could just be unlock the character skin, but it incentivizes people to finish it because they want to get those goddamn fucking skins. And then
or maybe unlock the character. That would be the
FOMO mechanic early on, so they'll continue buying skins because they'll feel like they need to have them to be feeling rewarded. So there you go. There's your manipulative PvE fucking tutorial experience for free, no consultation fee. But god fucking damn it, I swear, if I see another fucking person just wandering off into the hills, not knowing where they're supposed to be, pressing buttons that don't even fucking make sense, I'll lose my mind. Like, I cannot muster the amount of impatience it must take to just like, when you see people just like, oh, just fucking one trick to top 500 status, like, what? Wouldn't just dying be faster? Like just dying would be a much
you saying all of this while slowly loading ammo into a gun, lovingly shelling a bolt action rifle as you're explaining reward incentive in fucking Street Fighter V's costume story mode, fucking quality of life change. It's ridiculous.
Does Street Fighter have that? They have like a costume reward for
Street Fighter 5 the story modes are like fight this enemy, it like he's gonna jump at you, so it teaches you how to fucking anti-air in story mode, and then when you beat story mode, which is like 5 little easy missions, you get a story mode costume for your character. That's the only reason why anyone ever plays it. So it's remarkable to hear you describe this concept for Overwatch, like as slowly as you're losing your sanity, a thing that thousands of other games have already done that Overwatch just fumbled. And now we're not getting that.
Be a decision. It's a decision by them. They must like have like some rules. The same rules that say you must not have any numbers.
There's rules that say they just don't have fucking time. They don't have time to do any. They don't have time to tie their own fucking shoes in this game. when you look at the bug reports every patch, it increases in size exponentially. Like Overwatch 2 came out, I was like, oh yeah, there's some bugs. But then like the next patch, it gets double, then triple. It's like you look at the current bug fixes, it's enormous. It's like you cannot literally fit it onto a single page. It's like fucking how?
Yeah, it's pretty big in the last patch.
How is this so ridiculous that you don't even have you have more time to add shit than you have time to fix shit? Like what?
Yeah.
What?
Well, like there's one of the things I think about is just like I used to play competitive Super Smash Brothers Melee, which is a crazy video game that does not teach you how to play that game the way that it is played at high level. However, I want to be very clear about this. I got better at and learned how to play Super Smash Brothers Melee competitively, a game with a shit terrible training mode and no tutorial from 2002, faster than I'm learning how to play Overwatch. I would go so far as to say my moment-to-moment decision-making in Melee, a video game that frequently reaches over 200 actions per minute. Or
that's a lot.
It is. It's about as fast. It's a fighting game as fast and precise as competitive StarCraft. I am making calmer decisions in that game and reacting to things I am looking at on the screen to a greater and more functional degree than I am at any given moment in Overwatch 2.
Oh no,
and yes,
Overwatch 2 exists to like simulate the entirety of what going to war feels like for the first time and having no idea how to fire a gun. Like it is the worst fucking feeling you can ever have where you're like, everyone's yelling at me, people are dying, I'm supposed to do something, but I have a gun here that is painted yellow and has a clown face on it. What is that? Is it going to kill me?
It's a game designed in a lab to make you sympathetic to people with sensory issues.
Right? That's a great way to put it. And like, it's just frustrating to me because I feel like my best contribution and the matches that we win the most, and I know that this is like a me issue. It means that like the games that we're losing are games where I'm feeding, but like I feel more competent on the team, and I feel like my best strategy is to just fucking run away all the time. Like I play my best when I'm being my little tracer self. No, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Does not matter who I'm playing. DPS, support, fucking tank. I feel like the team dies less and does better when I follow the group out. I'm attached to Keith's ass as the tank. I am sitting behind his Reinhardt shield. I left click until I empty a single clip. It don't kill anyone. And then I go, all right, I'm out. And then I flee back to spawn. That is when we do the best. And it feels fucking terrible. It's awful. And I really wish that there was a PvE campaign or something that we could play that would allow me to engage with the game with all of you in a way that does not make me feel like I am making all of your days worse by just trying to learn the fucking game.
I think like that's you're
canceled it.
You're talking in a
it's not canceled though, or is it?
You're talking about a very real issue.
The co-op PvE stuff, similar to Archives, isn't canceled. However, because the very nature of what we mean by PvE is something you can play whenever the fuck you want. That part's gone. That won't be there. They will only be co-op story missions during events on the Battle Pass, just like it was for Archive missions. You only get the one shot to play it, and then come back. Maybe it'll come back. I don't know how fucking Battle Pass content works, honestly. I don't know if it will ever come back. But the co-op missions, will be tied to the Battle Pass. They will be tied to whatever event is happening, and that will be it. That is what every confirmation blog post, Twitter fucking shit, all of it has been from the developers, that it is tied to the Battle Pass's current state. There will be no missions. The hero story missions were the ones that were going to be stuck.
Gonna be torture. Anyway,
we
really before you go on a giant rant, we really need to introduce what you're talking about because we're just going on. Yeah. Toaster did an obvious layup to transition to this topic, and we're not introducing it at all.
I try my best to segue. Yeah.
But Overwatch was sold with the idea of having a PvE campaign, and like to the point where that was literally the advertised like headliner of Overwatch 2 was that it would have a PvE campaign with like leveling up and having a skill tree, and you and your team of somewhat confusingly 4 players, which is not any of the previous numbers of players you have in Overwatch games, because it was a 6-player game, then it was becoming a 5-player game, but campaign is 4-player confusingly, because it's 2 DPS, a tank, and a healer, I guess. But it was gonna be, you go fight Left 4 Dead style enemies. They're gonna be, we promise they're gonna be more interesting than the ones you fought in the previous like sort of like wacky event sort of PvE things, because there's gonna be like, now there's a crazy robot that grabs you and you need to be saved by your teammate, and those kinds of mechanics that make co-op more compelling in a campaign context. And they're kind of mandatory because if not, you just have dumb AIs trying to play as human characters, and that doesn't just work very well, so they need to have like interference mechanics. And so that all looked promising. My concern was obviously from the get-go that like the 3 existing PvE missions they did make weren't the most interesting things, but hopefully with all these new tools and it being designed from the ground up as being the point of the game, like they'll totally make a cool PvE mode and then also have the updated PvP as a side thing. But instead what happened is that Overwatch 2 came out without its PvE at all, because they were sitting on a multi-year content drought where no new characters and no new maps for the real modes were coming out for literally years in Overwatch 1. And so there was eventually this like the moment where like even the audience was like, okay, y'all fuckers need to make this update happen at some point, because you can't leave the last character as being Echo for like 3 years and then just abandon this game forever. Although, to be completely honest, I was kind of having a good time just playing a stable game for years and having the old school multiplayer, because as somebody who has not been actively playing live service games, I'm used to a game just coming out and that's just what the game is, and then you play that for years. So I'm not actually that bothered by content drought, but that was the demand, and that's obviously how you make your money as a service, and that's the incentive structure that they have. So they came out with just the PvP moment, the PvP part of the game, and they launched it with battle passes and seasons, and essentially the game was out, and it was kind of seen as early access and kind of seen as like the without the full experience version of the game, but simultaneously was also seen as like mechanically, functionally, like financially and incentive wise, like that is the product launch has already happened. And so the moment this kind of happened, that I was figuring, okay, we are never going to get a campaign released as like a giant, huge update, because the incentive structure now is to roll out content over time. So I always figured at that point that like, oh, we're gonna get mission packs eventually when they finally figure out the PvE. But the big looming issue here was that they had promised these like skill trees for every single character, and each skill tree was going to have deviations of and like variations of their abilities that you could customize and tweak, and you essentially get to have like a wacky power fantasy version of each character instead of the balanced PvP one, which is a fun idea. But they have to do that for like 40 characters, and every time that they add a new character every 2 months to the game, that one also increases the amount of work for the as of yet still unlaunched PvE mode that they're still supposedly working on. And Overwatch launched with 3 characters and already has added 2 more in, so there's 5 new Overwatch 2 characters alone already, and a new one coming out in 2 seasons, and that's just the endless treadmill. And so the news here is that they kind of like on a live stream in the worst possible way, because in vague terms they revealed that apparently they are no longer going to be releasing the PvE in that scale, like in that context. Like they're still releasing missions that have story and new enemies and are playable with the cast and all that on a campaign thing, but they will no longer have this like there's no longer this promise for like a Warframe style like endless replayability grind Skinner box thing with the variable skills. And on my end of things, I'm like, I'm sad to see wacky customizable kits for the characters go away. I'm not sad to see Skinner box mechanics go away, but the internet has lost their entire shit, and in part for good reason. Like, as much as I don't want to see experience meters in Overwatch in the Left 4 Dead mode, what did happen is that like promised features that Overwatch 2 was launched with the promise of, I was almost had sold on, but you can't really say sold when the game wasn't. I guess technically you could buy like a weird bundle, but the game was technically free. But
except for those who bought Overwatch 1, which got erased.
Yeah, but Overwatch 1 was not sold with the promise of Overwatch 2's PvE campaign, so you can't say that's a broken promise.
True.
It's just the fact that and
ultimately still did have a game stolen from me.
Yeah, but there's also the Ship of Theseus argument where no matter what you liked about Overwatch 1, it always was changing unrecognizably eventually over time. Like, they added you can't be the same hero as each other on the same team. They added role queue. They added all these limitations over time and they changed half the characters and then added a bunch of new ones that fundamentally changed how the game plays. So like you could never go home to Hobbiton, no matter what, the Shire, no matter how much you wanted to, in Overwatch 1 anyway. But the biggest reveal most recently was that stuff has come out that made it clear that like they knew they were no longer going to fulfill the promise of skill trees and everything before they launched Overwatch 2. Seems to be the implication from like what's come out, is that they already knew this was not going to happen, and that when it did come out, it was going to be in a different form.
What you described about the character, like, 5 characters came out with Overwatch 2 already. They knew that from the get-go. There's no fucking way you looked at that and said like, so we're just gonna make 17 skills for a new character every 2 months. Like, is that what we're doing? And someone was like, I don't think we can do that.
Yeah, no. I know that they knew that. The struggle here is on some level. There's the developers that I think were working their asses off to try to make the thing that they were assigned to do.
Sure.
But behind the scenes, the people that are managing this shit, they will just change their mind about what the focus is. And so behind the scenes, from what we're getting from supposed insider sources was that they kept the people running and managing this all kept reallocating people more and more away from the PvE team and towards like the battle pass and the PvP team and so on, and they were starving that development team while still maintaining the promises. And so it was like they was stuck in this like doomsday nightmare where the people working on this thing couldn't talk about it, but fundamentally knew they would never be able to actually make this thing work and catch up with the content treadmill the other team was making to make this a viable mode, while not being allowed to talk about it, while also being while the people that were running this were still like keeping silent and keeping the implied promise running for like the last 6 months now. And now it finally came out, and it came out in the worst way they could possibly do it, which is that they wanted to frame it as a good thing. So they kind of like hyped it up like, oh, this will allow all these new possibilities. And I believe on some level that they're like, oh yeah, the reducing the complexity of the multiplayer of the PvE lets them release content faster potentially for it because they're not chained by this other promise. But they like did it in a sneaky, confusing, like offhand comment in a stream, as opposed to like, here's our big comprehensive, like very specifically worded and very carefully managed, like scripted video. So instead, the mistake they made is they left this to be a thing for the audience to collectively react to and content creators to make what was honestly kind of clickbait about. This is rough because every time I talk about this, it's really hard to talk about it without sounding like I'm defending Blizzard, because I don't want to defend them. But also the narrative about this stuff is also wrong. It's frustrating.
It's a two-sided affair where both sides are bad.
They fucked up so bad that the narrative became PvE is literally canceled, which is not true. In fact, 90% of what they were making is still coming out, which is that they made the missions with the story and the enemies, and those are happening, but the specific character progression mechanics are not going to make it because of the nightmare that was to develop. And because they had released the information so poorly, no one knows what's happening. And even when I collectively get to the point where I know that much about the situation, I'm still kind of stressed about it, because even though I'm kind of cool with the idea of a like Left 4 Dead style missions you play with your friends and then you loop through on higher difficulties and that's your hangout game, I'm worried that they're going to make each of them seasonal things that you either only can access if you buy that battle pass, and then they go away forever if you didn't buy the battle pass, or worse, they're an event for a specific season and then those missions just go away forever and you can't just play them what they want. Because if they were even slightly sane as a game developer who's supposed to make amends and fulfill their promise to their audience, they desperately need to roll out a few missions each season as they promised, and then keep them forever so they can slowly build up a full crazy campaign of a bunch of content to play, akin to like how when you play modern World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14, you can queue through these like 500 dungeons that are all in the game now because they never took any of them away, and look at them go, years of content. And if they don't do that, I will be deeply frustrated. Anyway, sorry for the giant filibuster, but we needed to like actually contextualize any of this because we were just ranting about the end point first.
It's the end of Overwatch 2.
But
canceled.
So to assuage Keith's concerns, all of that he's concerned about is happening. So that will be the reality of the PvE stuff, is that it is not going to stay there. There will not be a menu that says like PvE modes or whatever. They're not going to be in custom matches you can do yourself. They are tied to the battle pass as seasonal content that is like themed based on whatever the battle pass theme is, similar to Star Watch even.
I don't think that's
and that's going to be the PvE. It's not going to be PvEP, whatever the fuck shit name they came up with.
No. I mean, like, I don't think that they're scrapping the existing PvE plans to then just make themed packs. Like, it's not going to. No, I think they're literally going to actually be doing like the Overwatch story, and those are going to be missions that build the Overwatch story. It's not going to be like, oh, this season's Olympus theme, so this mission pack is the Olympus pack, and it's completely disconnected from all the other packs.
Yeah.
And then this is the Star Watch. I don't think that's happening. No, they might still do events, but I don't think that is at all what anyone has said the PvE is going to be.
But there's an interview that was released right after the original announcement. There's an interview on GameSpot that specifically says, let me see if I can find it over here. Yeah, so basically they describe what they're doing as, quote, a cool co-op mode for this seasonal event. And the way they describe this is they put it in a sentence like, they want people to look at it and be, oh, there's a cool co-op mode for the seasonal event, I'm gonna play it. So that's the way I described it. But so yeah, I obviously, even if they had said, okay, we're going to force people to pay and we're going to hide it after the battle pass is over or whatever, obviously their plans can change. But I tend to agree with Andrew. I'm pretty sure their current plans are to first make these missions that they're eventually, or they're still releasing. I mean, they have released missions like this before, but make these missions not last forever, because that's how they have done it so far. And I'm pretty sure they're also going to charge for it, because it's as you point out, Keith, the profit incentive is everywhere. That's
deeply frustrating, because like I would have paid $40, $60, $70, whatever, as a one-time purchase for all of their PvE content. But if they're going to roll out like 1 or 3, and honestly, let's probably 1 mission and tie it to the battle pass, I am not paying $10 per mission for the entire campaign. That's insane.
Yeah, I think
insane or insanely profitable.
They'll find out real fast which answer's true.
I don't think it's going to be
the second
meaningful.
answer. The second answer is what's true.
I don't think it's going to be meaningfully important to their profit.
Video games make me sad, guys.
The way the battle pass works already filters so many people out that it's only people who have disposable income that don't, they have nowhere to put it in, or it's people. I mean, now it's a little bit less predatory than it used to be on Overwatch 1. Because loot boxes are predatory, so it's not only are you getting money from people who do have disposable income, but you're also getting money from people who don't but can't help themselves. But yeah, I honestly, like, if they're selling, let's say, 1 million battle passes per season, I think with a PvE missions, it's perhaps going to be 2 million. I don't like that's not meaningful. I think, in terms of the investment that it takes.
You are correct in that it won't be meaningful in the grander context of all of the things that make Overwatch 2 money. I think you are incorrect in your assumption that only the most engaged buy it, because
no, I didn't say engaged. I said the people who have the money to spend.
Sure. Again, working in the market research context that I work in, I have very firsthand knowledge of how this stuff works. And like, you are correct, it is less predatory than loot boxes. However, the incentivization scheme here actually does get people who like don't really have disposable income to purchase this, because they believe that a battle pass with like 80 tiers and a bunch of rewards is actually more substantial than funneling their money into random loot boxes. So it is a more reliable income stream than the gambling stream, which functions on a very, like, the thing with loot boxes is that, yes, like, everyone buys loot boxes, unfortunately, but the profit is made from whales, right? It's made from people who spend a lot of money to gamble and get what they're looking for. Exactly. Battle passes are not the same. Battle passes are a constant, very steady flow of income across all tier levels and all skill levels, because people see it as a more reasonable purchase. So like, whereas my buddy Steve back at one of my last jobs, he played Overwatch all the time on console. He is not a competitive player. He does not care about this stuff. He probably bought like maybe 10 loot boxes in his entire time, and he was happy to grind for free for his entire experience in Overwatch 1. I know for a fact he has bought every battle pass for Overwatch 2 because he thinks it's more of a guarantee, and he enjoys the experience of playing with his friends and being part of the experience. And that's where it becomes a very important, quote unquote, part of Blizzard's revenue stream, especially right now when there is a lot of uncertainty about the stability and life, like ongoing life of Blizzard's games and Blizzard as a company. Obviously, they're still doing way better than most companies in most gaming places, but when we are speaking on a macro scale about like things with such high levels of community engagement and player engagement, doing something like shitting out one PvE mission that ties into the ongoing serialized story of Overwatch, akin to something like Fortnite, sure, that's an expensive upfront investment, but that is an evergreen, constantly circling flywheel that gets more and more people to buy in over time. Even if they don't ever even play the PvE, the fact that those missions now are tied into it as a FOMO scheme create an engagement cycle where people will buy into it and see that as part of the incentive.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, but I think that's what I was trying to say. The worst
way. It's like
but that's what I was trying to say, is that the model of the battle pass already, as it is filtering those people and is letting them buy the battle pass. It's not
definitely.
I'm sure it's going to sell more battle passes. The level of investment that you need to make missions is so disproportional to the, like, they're better off just offering double the skins instead of making missions. They would get more battle pass sales on just like I for example, I haven't ever bought a battle pass, but I have enough. I have enough coins to buy a battle pass if I want. And like I looked at the last one, and I didn't see anything that was anything valuable to me. I didn't see anything that I wanted, basically. But maybe if they offered twice as much, maybe there would be one or two that I would like.
Yeah. Well, I think you are correct in your assessment that it would make more people buy the battle pass. But what I'm trying to get at is, like, it would increase the amount of people buying the battle pass who want the skins. The big controversy here with the PvE, I think, is that there are a lot of people, and I don't actually know if any of them would actually have played Overwatch if a PvE campaign came out. But from a business perspective, Blizzard is looking at PvE and is saying, this is a target audience we are not capturing right now.
Well, how
do we get them to buy in? Or how do we, I'm not even talking about PvE archives missions. I'm talking about the people who, like me, like, let's just say like a random person who doesn't play competitive Overwatch, who doesn't play multiplayer, but likes the cinematics. They watched the first Overwatch trailer and said, this looks like a Pixar, it looks like a DreamWorks movie. I'd play that if that had a campaign 10 years ago.
But that's what they wanted to do, but they canceled that.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying, though, is that
no, they didn't cancel that. They're
giving us a souvenir.
They're
giving us a souvenir of what that thing was while it was in development.
They are trying to drip feed. They're trying to drip feed content.
But not even as drip feed.
Satisfies. Like the
distinction between a Destiny game and a Call of Duty campaign is very different.
Yes,
and I think
totally,
like while I personally prefer the Call of Duty campaign to the Destiny game. Like that's still not what I don't think that's what Blizzard wanted to do at all. I think Blizzard wants people to play their single player game over and over.
They
and
made
over
both games, so who knows?
Yeah, I think the thing here though is that they're trying to capitalize on what they see as a new untapped market that has been holding off from Overwatch, and they realized, exactly as you said, the investment is too high to do a full-blown story mode campaign akin to a Halo game, right? Like, I mean, and to be honest, that was never in the cards. I don't think any person in the world very sincerely in good faith believed that would ever happen. However, I do think they are, with this quote unquote cancellation of PvE, what they're actually doing is going, okay, that is an audience that has yet to be captured. We still do need to capture them if we want our numbers to go up. How do we do that in the cheapest and most effective way possible? We kind of keep doing what we have been doing and just add some more cutscenes to it. That's the most cost-effective way. And we bundle it into the battle pass and funnel people into this ecosystem. And that's where I think the decision-making happens. And from that perspective, it makes sense why they did it. That's the kicker of all of this that I think really sucks.
I agree. It makes sense.
Yeah, it's like
it's a good business decision, but as a consumer,
but it was still a lie. Yeah.
Like, and I don't care about the lying part. Like my biggest thing is that if you were going to do this, I would have rather you had just kept Overwatch 1, kept and maintained the same style that they were doing. Every 6 months you add a new character or whatever. Fine, and then just give me just be like, oops, well, we want to make this PvE experience, but it requires a battle pass and we have to make Overwatch 2. But like the idea that I waited like 3 years through a drought and someone's like, no, you don't get rewarded for that. And it's like, well, why? Why did I do all that? And then like the game that came out on top of it to make it so it's possible to do whatever their plan once was isn't good either. So I went from like Keith said, like a fairly stable game to whatever Overwatch 2 is supposed to be, and then just like I don't like why has this been so awful? Why has it been just a shitty experience from announcement to release, and then from release to current? It's just not been good, and I'm not bothered by the business incentive, right? I get the necessity to move away from free loot boxes that you can pretty much farm without ever spending a dime. And I understand the idea.
Anything about the change feel good is what's brutal. They
well,
went
they
from
also
like
can't
the loot
even
boxes are
talk
gone,
about
okay, and
without...
what they replaced it with was seasonal event battle passes. Here's a trailer for all the skins in our thematic thing we're doing. The whole battle pass is themed. Isn't that crazy? 70% of the skins that were advertised in the trailer are not in the battle pass. You have to pay $20 for them a piece in a separate store, in a FOMO store that goes away in a week. Bye-bye. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, not in a week. Every year, every day, it's like it refreshes.
Well,
no, it changes every week. It changes every Tuesday.
Other stuff refreshes, but specifically the event items are only like they make a battle pass with a trailer for the skins for that battle pass that are all themed. Like here's the Olympus one. And then the skins in the trailer, only like 3 of them are actually in the battle pass. The rest are completely unrelated to the theme. And then you have to catch the store in the correct week, not even season long, but the correct week of that season to actually get the skin you want. And then you pay $20 for it.
Or more. Or more, because I see a lot of 2,200 coins and things.
Well, those are bundles. You can just buy the skin outright.
And the skins,
yeah, you can buy the skin individually. You don't have to buy the weird bundle. It's like, there's an emote. Whoa. What was so frustrating is like they tricked me essentially into buying a battle pass, in that they advertised all the skins. I'm like, oh cool, there's going to be a Junker Queen Zeus skin, and there's going to be a Minotaur Ryan skin. I will pay, you know what? Those 2 skins are actually good enough. I will pay $10 for them collectively this one time and maybe never give you money again. And then the fucking Minotaur Ryan skin wasn't in the battle pass. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck? What are you doing? That was the whole point, isn't it? What the fuck are you doing? And then they did they did an extra level of clearly, like I honestly think this was intentional manipulation. Was that when they then added currency to the battle pass the next season, the currency was gold in the icons for the battle pass, which is the color of the currency that you spend for the battle pass. And this is in the market context of like, you talk about you talk to Marty and you talk to people like him about that buy battle passes, about what makes them buy battle passes and how they think about it and how they contextualize it and how they rationalize it and excuse it to themselves and so on. And Marty will talk about how he only buys a Fortnite battle pass when he thinks he's going to play the game enough to not only benefit from the battle pass itself, but specifically earn enough currency to get the deal of getting the next battle pass for free, because you get currency that can pay for the battle pass in the battle pass. So Overwatch made a battle pass that had a currency in it, and the icons were gold for that currency, which looked like the currency that you use to buy the battle pass, but it was actually a separate currency that's silver once you actually have it, that only buys Overwatch 1 skins. which is a ever diminishing market that seemingly will never be added to, and that is completely different function. And both currencies are both, like, if I remember correctly, they're stylizations of like the same letter, like C or E or whatever, but that looks slightly different with how many lines are through them. But they lied about what color it was, because the color is the biggest signifier of which one you're looking at. There's like a purple currency or a red currency, a gold currency, and a silver currency. And they used the icon for the silver currency that's almost identical to the gold currency, and they made it gold, but it was the shape of the silver one that looks the same as the gold one. And so like tons of people just thought it was the gold currency, and they got people to buy a battle pass under the false assumption that they were, you know, doing the business practice that other battle passes do. And they just a UI kerfuffle tricked people into thinking they were doing a sane choice.
It wasn't a kerfuffle. It was for sure on purpose, for sure.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely an intentional lie, and then they got called out on it enough that they changed it, and I'm like,
they changed it twice, in fact.
Yeah.
With made a little change, and now it's not like, it's sort of colorless, and then they made it actually gray.
And plot twist, the end result for this that I've noticed is that now the battle pass is arguably worse than ever for non-paying players, because now almost the entire battle, so the battle pass I think has like, I think 2 of the skins are free, which was true originally, and then the rest are paid. But now the entire track of like, because every 10th level is a skin and the other 9 levels are a bunch of other things, now almost every single one of the free slots is just them giving you the old currency to pay for Overwatch 1 skins. So if you already have the Overwatch 1 skins you like, then you get basically nothing for playing through the battle pass for free.
That's not,
because all of those are gone. Which part's not true?
The slots that have the currency have a second slot with like a spray or a voice line or whatever. So
you're right, because the interface is so trash.
Yeah,
it's always duplicated up, but it still is the fact that at some point, say like after your 10th battle pass or whatever, there will definitely come a point where someone goes like, okay, cool, fake, like I get this currency for skins I can't buy anything with. Like, what is going to be the end game there? Are they going to make some of the FOMO skins just devolve into Overwatch 1 paid skins after like 2 years and say like, we've run the ringer out. No one's going to pay $20 for a Brig skin where she's wearing a Hawaiian hat. Shit, I guess we're going to have to sell it with Overwatch 1 currency for like 15,000 or something. There you go.
So this is something I want to actually talk about really quickly, and it's just, I think it demonstrates this whole issue. I have bought 2 of the battle passes, I think, because I wanted to get the new characters. Hearing this, you might raise your eyebrow. And the reason is I did not realize the new characters
you didn't need to do that?
were separate from the battle pass. And the reason is whenever you play a game without the battle pass, you level up and it like goes slowly and you blow through all these rewards. And at a certain point, it looks like every reward in front of you is locked because it will say this reward is not included with this level of the battle pass or with the public battle pass or whatever. So obviously, logically, I thought I got all of the rewards up to level 10. But then every reward after this has been locked minus some like random win quotes and like graffiti, like a spray or whatever. Okay, so if what's his name? If Lifeweaver is character 45, is like rank 45 in the battle pass, the way I thought it worked was you buy the battle pass, you get to play as Lifeweaver up during this season. But you don't unlock him permanently until you get to level 45. That is how I thought it worked. And I thought it was
that would make,
brutal. I thought it was brutal because obviously afterward, everyone says like, well, after the season, like a certain amount of time later, it unlocks for everyone. So I was thinking like, oh, if I want to play, like, I don't remember exactly what season we're on, but like, let's say Lifeweaver came out in season 2. I'm like, okay, if I want to play Lifeweaver in season 3, I need to finish unlocking him now after buying the battle pass because he doesn't go public until season 4. I thought that was how it worked. And there are tons of people who think that is how it works.
It's incredibly confusing.
That is a problem.
Why you would think that. Yeah.
There's I would say if there was a way to summarize, I think if there was a way to summarize the multitude of why Overwatch 2 is this almost black hole like problem creator, almost all of it comes down to one very, very simple outcome or very, very simple failure on the company, which is just communication. This company, with almost all of its heart, all of its money, all of its pressure, all of its force, all of its everything it has, will not communicate. It doesn't want to. It has no interest in doing it, and it actively, spitefully punishes you when it tries to communicate. Like, it cannot muster the energy to just say shit to you, explain anything. And like the PvE was such a good example of how this is. Like, you have there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different employees on for that Overwatch stream, and none of them so only 2 of them were announcing the end of PvE, but like even during the Star Watch stuff, nothing being said in those conversations amounted to anything. Like, even when they talked about Star Watch, it was mostly just reactionary outbursts. Like, it was so much fun to do this. I hope everyone enjoys this. I got to push myself and have a good time. And it's like, just tell me what you did to make shit. Tell me like why you decided to put turrets in places. Not just saying like, well, we think it would be fun for the community. No, like,
the curse of patch notes.
Yeah, it's like, what do you like? Give us some kind of insight here. Like, I hate to sound like one of those people, but like there was some kind of almost enjoyable experience to listen to the developer note or developer dialogue when it was like when Jeff was giving them. He would have these like little 5-minute videos where he'd be like, hey, I'm going to explain why we're changing Symmetra's gun. You see, we found out that it's really unpleasant for people to have a character that just auto locks onto them around corners and beats their ass cheeks in. We think that it might not be fun, so we're going to actually just change that around. And it should be okay because we're just doing it based on Zarya's beam, which is something everyone else seems to also like. So that seems fine. Like, just explain shit. Tell me why you're doing things. Just some kind of understanding beyond just like, even the blog post is such a hollow, worthless way to interact with the community. A community which is like incredibly frustrated with you because you just previously came out and said like just completely fumbled communication. So like you then go and write a communication that is like distant, hollow, and detached from the community, from yourself, right? It's a blog post. I don't know if you wrote it. I don't know if fucking ChatGPT wrote it. Probably. It's just like, I don't know. Just why is communication so hard with this company? And in every way, like even the coins is such a bad thing. Where they never really came out and said like, oh shit, sorry, we had plans to actually give back currency in the battle pass, but it turned out bigwigs didn't like that, so we had to change it. But we forgot to change the icon, so whoops-a-doodles, we'll fix that right now. Our bad. Like just some ownership, responsibility, some kind of insight into like what is happening at the Overwatch team. When I think of that team, I think of it like, I think it's like two people inside of a very big empty office, and they're both kind of like taking breaks between, like both of them are doing their job, but then every so often they'll each like take a break to cry. And like that's the rotation that goes on. And then at the end of the season, we get new stuff. Like seriously, what happens in the Overwatch team? I don't know. I don't understand what any decisions being made are. What's the focus? What's the goal? What's the passion? When people are making skins, are they even happy that their skins are being sold for $20 and half the community doesn't even bother? Like, does that make them feel good? Tell me something. Like, it's just like, it is so detached and hollow that like, it's impressive that Fortnite feels like it has more communication to players, and it doesn't. It has absolutely nothing to do with play. It like basically shows up in like a giant bird vomits into the community and says like, here's all the content, and then flies away as if it has done some kind of majesty. But somehow people still, I don't know, it still feels like there's more engagement there than Overwatch.
There is a weird depressing aspect to just like finding like tracing back the roots to the Minotaur Ryan skin and finding like the gay Bara artist on Twitter that designed that character years ago, and it's been this big long process to leading up to this big release. Then it was in the store for a week and it's gone forever. Bye.
Yeah, like does the artist feel good about that? Because I can tell you that
Blizzard anymore, so
well, yeah, but I mean, like, it's just the thing of like, I can tell you that skin designers for Overwatch 1 love the skins they make. They would go on Twitter all the time when they released and be like hyped and talking about it and being like, thanks for, everyone wearing the skin. I love seeing that. I don't see that shit anymore now. People who make these skins like 20 years in advance, and they come out like, yeah, like you said, Keith, they're just on the store for a day. And then they go away and no one ever talks about it or thinks about it because it's just part of the giant sludge of content pump. And it's that, I don't know, it's so sad and depressing. I liked Overwatch because there was like some kind of, like the world and itself was just kind of this bubbly aspect. There was a lot of silliness. Just like the idea that some socially awkward, clearly scared man came on every month and told me about patch notes, and it looked like he was going to cry. Jeff looked like terrified to be in front of the camera every time he was. He looked just frightened, and I can understand it's a scary thing when you're going to put your face in front of what basically is the most visceral community of gamers I've ever met, and like it's just impressive to like go from that, and then you have a guy who, I don't know. It's just like he seems like he's so busy. He can't even take the time to explain why he's so busy. It's like,
I just love the idea that Jeff Kaplan like characterized as like a fucking hostage negotiator.
Like if you go and look at the first developer, whatever they call it, developer diary, I think. If you look at the first developer diary,
introverted like World of Warcraft developer had to be the lead for a shooter.
Yeah, Exactly. Like he literally just was just a guy who's like, I thought it would be kind of cool if we gave heroes like WoW abilities, and then somehow I'm leading this thing. And like but he like goes on later to become like the vice president of Blizzard. But it's still the idea of like it's hilarious hilarious to see it almost feels grassroots Overwatch 1 from like conception to execution, and Overwatch 2's conception to execution has been almost too corporate. It's been so like monolithically monopolist and distant from you. Like it doesn't want to engage with you. It doesn't want you to know anything. It just wants you to consume and stop talking and thinking. And just that battle pass skin looks really fucking tasty, doesn't it? What if you put it in your mouth and lick it? And it's like, why would I do that? And it's like, well, this guy worked really hard on it for like 20 years and he loves his skin. It's like, oh, okay, well, I kind of feel like maybe I'll put it in my mouth then. But like, I don't want to do it because some company is like
strategy. You can't help that Mario looks so tasty.
Exactly. Like and that's like I don't know. Those are the things that I liked about Overwatch 1 specifically. I really liked, like, I watched every developer diary, even though it was funny as hell and hard and distracting because Jeff just clearly isn't built to do that. But it's like the fact that he would explain stuff made a lot more sense to me. Like I would get upset about changes and then watch the developer diary, and Jeff is just like hardcore going into like, no, we had to change it because you guys suck at this character. Like we have stats that prove you couldn't even win a match with this character, so we have to change it. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, well, I guess if Jeff's got the numbers, then the man's got fucking proof that you all suck at this character. I guess we have to change it. Like, it makes more sense than just. I hate the what it currently is now, where it's just, we're changing Lifeweaver. What? What? What do you mean you're changing? You just came out with this character. Why are you changing it? It's like, well.
What's
people
kind
complain,
of crazy about that?
And it's like, what?
What's kind of crazy about that too, though, is that it will be like, we're changing Lifeweaver, and it's like, okay, and instead of describing the strategy behind why they're changing out Lifeweaver, it's just like a glut, like a vomit stream of like, we made each one of his petals in Thorn's Rush or whatever the hell is like left click is like, we made it so that it does 4.5 damage instead of 3, so this will make him stronger. And it's like, okay, but like what leads to that decision other than just like increasing numbers? Like just turning the dials doesn't explain that. Like the issue people were having is that they were trying, like people felt compelled to engage with damage as Lifeweaver instead of using his healing tools or like, like things like that. Like there's no strategy behind it. It's literally just like, and we gave him a double jump because people felt the controls were weird, and his dash heals around you. And we also took away his most defining mechanic, his drop health on death. And we made it so that his heal blossom does like 65 instead of 50. And it's like, okay, why though? And like they don't they don't say like we took away his health drop because it made it shifted the comp to dive whenever Lifeweaver was around, so it over centralized the meta of the game and we needed to design around that. It's literally just we swapped his numbers, hope you like it. And it's like, tell me how we're supposed to play this game, please.
Yeah, and I think that was those are when you have a game that is constantly updating like this game, like Fortnite updates in a unique way, right? Because Fortnite doesn't really change. Like the guns you get are just the same guns everyone gets. Everyone has access to the fucking BFR or whatever. And so when you change how a weapon works, you can be that distant from it because everyone gets the update. You don't need to like talk about it. It's just the way that it is now. But Overwatch has unique characters and flows to the game, and people do get attached to like a very specific character and play style of that character, and it changes and defines the way that you would pick them or build teams. And like so much of the game is focused around characters that when you make changes to them, you do in a way have to justify that more than you would in something like Call of Duty or Fortnite, or Destiny. And it's and I think that's something that just got overlooked, where it's like, this is what everyone else does, I think we'll be okay. or it's just a case of like, we don't have time. Sorry, we just don't have time to talk about it. We have to change the numbers. We also still got to get the skin out tomorrow because God for fucking bid we don't release the skin we've been holding on to for 16 months and fucking the store that changes every week. Like, it's just, there's so many deadlines in Overwatch 2 that I kind of just feel concerned. Like, is someone doing a checkup on the development team? Are they happy? Are they okay? Are they like,
well, they have tremendous churn. They have a lot of people leaving the company, so 100% they're not happy. But
that happens for like multitude of reasons: a bad economy, lawsuits, fucking like better opportunities elsewhere. Like, there's a lot of reasons people leave, but the important part is more about what right now is the focus and goal of the developers. What is the passion? What are they excited about coming out? Like, I don't know anything except for like, I hope you guys stay tuned. Look, well, okay, stay tuned for what? Like, what am I waiting 6 months for? What am I gonna see in 10 years? Like, what is Overwatch going to be? And I can't even understand the rationale between why does Lifeweaver exist? Who is he here for? What is he compensating for? What is he? Yeah, like Toaster said, just tell me like, what do you want with this character? What do you want me to do with him? Why are we changing his kit so dramatically? Is there like, are there meta requirements that aren't being met? Is he just not panning out to be the all-star side support he was destined to be built for? Like, what is, because I don't have any idea or insight into the designs of anything in Overwatch 2, I can just go on the assumption that like, no one thought about it really hard and it just came out and now it's shit. And so I can kind of like, I don't know, it's just, I can kind of dismiss a lot of I could chalk up a lot of bad parts of Overwatch 2 to just, mismanagement or passionless devs or corrupt game company, because there's no, I guess, essentially heart and soul being projected to me about this game.
Yeah.
And not to be mean, but like, skins aren't heart and soul. A skins a game does not make. It's like the mechanics of a game. And all I ever fucking hear about this game is Battle Pass, which is just full of skins, souvenirs, voice lines, and cosmetic stuff. And then the other time I hear about this game is from content creators upset about patch updates and saying like, it's over. Brig is too fucking strong. Every tank might as well just quit the game. And I'm like, this cannot be how this game is. This cannot be reasonable. And I think back to Overwatch 1 and like this content existed, but I didn't bother with it because I had an official source that told me what the fuck I should be thinking about. It had a guy who was there telling me like, almost like doing the thing in Always Sunny where he's slapping the board like almost crazy. It's like, I could promise you like 17% of Symmetra players just fell into a well because they didn't know how the teleport works. So we're changing it so it shows an arrow in the direction it comes out of. Like things like that are just way more compelling to me than like a guy who's just playing video footage of himself playing Overwatch saying like, yeah, well, Jeff woke up one morning and like shat himself and said, actually, I think it's because Sim players are garbage at the game. That's why I shit myself this morning. And so they changed Sim to be a worse character. And now I think just Sim should never be played. Fuck this guy. Fuck this stupid fucking guy. I don't want to hear stuff about anything from this guy. But he's the only person that's going to sit down and talk to me about Overwatch 2. And that's like the most frustrating thing to me is like, just talk to me. Sit down. Hire a guy. I'm sure there's a guy out there who's sitting there with a beautiful face, a good personality, and the charisma of like whatever gold bars are to poor people. And I bet you he can talk about Overwatch 2 and get people excited about things, even if it's shitty. But you need somebody to do that. You need a goddamn voice or a face to the game. You can't just have this assumption or ride off the coattails of like the goodwill that Overwatch 1 built. Like you need to maintain it. You have to keep it going. It's just, and they tried. I know that they tried because when Overwatch 2 came out, they had a couple of other developer diaries, but they quickly stopped them because it was obvious that it wasn't getting the same reception. Or alternatively, it was very obvious that like they didn't have time to make these anymore. Like, oops, the crunch is coming around the corner. We're gonna got all hands on deck. But it's just that's my big thing. That's my biggest thing. I don't care about the PvE as much as I care about the fact that I don't know why it was canceled. I don't know where it was in development. I don't even know like what the next thing is, because they didn't even fucking talk about it. They didn't sit down there and say like, okay, look, we're canceling the mode where you pick your stupid abilities. Sorry about that, but let's just have a real talk. Bad idea, wasn't gonna work. However, look at this shit, and you can like slap the board and go like, we made a whole new map. It's called Fa, and it's located in some volcano. And guess what? It's super fucking cool. And this is gonna be your first story mission. Is gonna be uncovering the mystery of Fa. And it just something more than just showing up like
they did desperately need to unveil what we are getting immediately in the same announcement, so that the narrative wouldn't immediately be untrue, basically, which is that all of it's gone forever, and there's nothing to show for it, because they left it in a vacuum of like, so yeah, that Star Watch is pretty good, right? Just not reading the room, and then being like, so anyway, PvE's canceled.
That thing that people hate. I mean, I think that is a good cap off to this discussion, right? Is that like, and I want to tie this back into kind of what I was saying earlier, and it's just the current state of Overwatch 2 is extraordinarily frustrating, and it's because, and this is just my experience, but I think with what Andrew said, we kind of all agree on this. Playing Overwatch 2 is an experience in largely just being confused and disorganized all the time, really not knowing what you need to do to get better or what you can do to help things, and often feeling punished for trying to even get a grasp of what is going on. And it's almost impossible to track any individual piece of the whole. And the very same thing that can be said about how they communicate and tell us about Overwatch 2 and the state of Overwatch 2 as a game being developed. It's all just,
it's just confused.
Chaos. It's just confused and directionless and constantly moving in different ways that just contradict and conflict with each other. And it just feels like, even outside of our group of like 6 people that play Overwatch pretty regularly, it seems like Overwatch as a game just is confused about what it is, what it even wants to be, or how you're supposed to play it. And that is probably the least confidence inspiring thing about this whole debacle, is that no one knows. And whenever they try to tell us something, it's just more confusing and nothing gets communicated.
I agree. I 100% agree. That is exactly my frustration with this game, and I hope they can fix it. I hope, like, again, just hire a guy, just get a PR team or something. Now that you've removed half of the team from hero mode, get some money back and buy a PR guy.
That is extremely optimistic.
No, I know. Realistically, it's never going to happen.
No, I mean, like, the hero mode team was definitely gutted to almost no one already. They're not getting new people from it now.
Whoever that one guy is left, that's just sitting there alone, sad, just have him do it, because you know what? That's the energy I want. I want a depressed, sad, scared guy to come back and teach me about Overwatch again. I just don't understand what they want, and I hope they figure it out. But also, it's important for me, or at least I feel it's important based on the discourse from PvE problems, to remind people that there is like there's a big chain in command here, and the guy who made the skin for Overwatch, it has about as much control over the store that it's located in and the character that he even made a skin for. He has as much control about that as much control you have about when you're going to die. It's like he has none. There's basically no control. It's just going to happen. And so, like, just like, if you're gonna be upset about Overwatch 2 and be upset to anybody, just go at the fucking CEO of Blizzard on Twitter, because that's the guy you should be yelling at. He gets paid plenty of money to endure your attacks. Trust me, I promise you. But that's the thing, is like, you can't. I guess it's frustrating knowing that realistically this is just the way it will be. This is the way it is, and I just have to endure this, because it's heartbreaking to feel like the way Toaster does is just load up the game and go like, man, I wish I could just uninstall this game and then wipe it from all human consciousness and just pretend like this never happened. Like, I wish we could just move on with our lives with this game never existing, because it's so much. It's so exhausting every time, and it is very bad for my mental health. but I play it because I'm good at it. It truly is. It truly is a terrible game.
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, Andrew. And in my heart of hearts, all I want is to be able to play a game with my friends because I like you all and I like playing games with you. And I want to not be the one guy in the group that doesn't play first person shooters, right? And I like the idea of partying up and playing a game together really, really makes my weekend. Like, I truly cherish being able to just hop on at the end of the day, even if we're not streaming, even if we're just playing games together. Do you know how rarely I get to fucking play games just on my own? Like right now with recording, we're all in this boat. And like, I just want to have something that I can play with you all that does not make me want to just throw my computer into a landfill. And like, Overwatch 2, no matter what I try, no matter how calm and zen and level-headed I try to be while I play it, like, it has been a losing battle trying to even enjoy my time in this game, especially lately. And I thought that maybe switching to quick play or unranked or whatever would make things better because I could just focus on playing the game and spending time with you all. And I'm not saying this is anything that you all are doing. It's truly just the game. But I just feel like dead weight. I feel like everything I do ruins the game. It makes me feel terrible. It makes me feel dumb. No matter what I try to do, it doesn't work. And like, I just don't see myself getting better. And it's a terrible experience every time. And it's not you guys' fault. Like, you guys are, I'm not even saying strategy wise. I'm saying like, you all have been incredibly supportive and helpful trying to get me better at this game. And I think I have improved over time, but I don't think it's been enough. And I don't think that, I just think the game isn't, and at the end of the day, it just doesn't feel good to play. It makes me feel bad, and I go to bed angry when I play
it. Yeah. I am sort of more or less in the same boat. What it took me to do is to stop playing as much
uniquely depressing thing to hear just of a video game.
But I think it's probably an experience that a lot of people share if you try to be to be better at the game instead of just enjoying it. What it took me to do was to stop playing competitive as much and just practice in quick play, because in quick play, like, everybody sucks, so it's like it sucked with
funny.
them, or stomp them.
I had the opposite. I think when I play competitive, I am happier because when I'm mad, I have like justification for it because I am in a competitive based situation. I am trying my best, pushing myself as hard as I can, and then I'm either winning or losing, and it sucks to feel that. But when I'm in quick play and I feel like I have to push as hard as I do in competitive, but my reward is absolutely not the same because it's just a fucking quick play match. Like, that drives me bonkers. That pisses me off so much.
It's very rare.
I get
for me, it's very rare that quick play is hard at all, ever. Like, it's so obvious. I play
nothing but fucking sweaty quick play matches. I swear, I just show up and there's just like Tracer Genji, and they're
last night was intense.
Yeah,
it was all quick play. Dude, it was so high effort. But also, Colonel, what are you doing? Colonel, what are you doing? I thought we were cooperating to start the conversation so that it would peter out and we could end the podcast because it's past your bedtime. And you just started introducing new topics. I'm like, what are you doing? The betrayal.
Go to bed.
I am.
It was time to stop like half an hour ago. And Colonel's like, don't forget about me in chat. And then you're like, what are you? No, stop, Colonel. You're saying more.
I forgot about me.
Colonel just loves talking to us too much.
You're gonna send Andrew on another 40-minute slam poetry session.
It's very easy, very easy. You gotta be careful.
Anyway, thanks for watching. Like always, guys, uninstall Fortnite.
Please make sure to not do that, actually, because Fortnite is an incredibly large game. Please keep it installed until you die.
I meant to say Overwatch. I just fucking I didn't even mean to say Fortnite. I'm not even thinking about Fortnite. I hate that.
Please, you can uninstall Overwatch.
I do not like that Overwatch and Fortnite are in the same part of my brain. Apparently, that's not a good note for the Overwatchers.
Here's
I am the only
an idea.
person on the planet who still sincerely enjoys Overwatch, and I wish other people would too. But they're not helping me with that as a game. But anyway,
here's an idea. Instead of buying the Overwatch 2 Battle Pass this season, take your $20 and up your Keith Patreon subscription to his $5 tier, and then sub
just
to
watch me
enjoy
it
Colonel
instead.
and Andrew on Twitch. That's a better use of your $20 than buying the Overwatch 2 Battle Pass.
My Overwatch 2 video essay thumbnail just crystallized. I'm just gonna have to commission a furry artist to draw like Hammond sitting at the "This is fine" like burning table. that's the thumbnail. All right, see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.